When I first went to China, there were no cars on the road. Everybody rode bicycles. The only clothes that men had was either a gray mouse suit or a blue mouse suit. I went to a trade fair, and all I saw was primitive pieces of machinery. It was an unbelievably backwards society. And now what's happening? It's real, and it's here. The most complex, pernicious, aggressive threat our nation has ever faced. What is it? The long arm of China. Yesterday, the Senate Intelligence Committee revealed alarming new evidence of China's pervasive penetration into almost every area of American life. And what's even a greater danger, their nuclear arsenal. Listen, they claim to have at least 350 warheads that the Pentagon expects to double over the next decade. I can't believe the transformation that's happened in these last 30 years. Here's George Thomas with the shocking details.
New satellite images show a major expansion of China's missile program.
Xi Jinping has one goal: to be the geopolitical, military, and economic leader in the world, period.
Researchers with the Federation of American Scientists uncovered 250 suspected nuclear missile silos, represented in this image by dots. They're under construction in a desert in China's western Xinjiang province. That's the same region where human rights groups believe Beijing is holding more than 1 million Muslim Uyghurs in massive concentration camps as part of the communist government's genocide against the ethnic minority group.
The members of this committee because of the role they play, have a very unique insight into this horror show that's playing out before our eyes in the 21st century.
Images taken of a vast site in northern China also reveal multiple silos under construction. They would likely house intercontinental ballistic missiles, with each capable of carrying multiple warheads.
The men and women of U.S. Strategic Command are always ready.
U.S. Strategic Command, overseer of America's nuclear arsenal, responded to these alarming revelations, tweeting, "The public has discovered what we have been saying all along about the growing threat the world faces and the veil of secrecy that surrounds it." China already has 350 nuclear warheads, an arsenal the Pentagon believes will double over the next decade.
This rapid buildup has become more difficult to hide, and it highlights how the PRC appears, again, to be deviating from decades of nuclear strategy based around minimum deterrence.
It's more evidence of China's increasingly assertive military ambitions under President Xi Jinping.
He is deadly earnest about becoming the most powerful military force in the world, as well as the largest and most prominent economy in the world by the mid-40s, 2040s. It's real.
China's growing nuclear stockpile, just one of many threats highlighted by a Senate Select Intelligence Committee hearing Wednesday.
China is focusing on targeting key U.S. technologies for both acquisition and development. These include aerospace, advanced manufacturing, AI, biotech, data analytics, semiconductors, renewables, all in order to ensure PRC's future dominance in these areas.
Committee members heard witnesses tell how China is burrowing into almost every facet of American life, from academia to Hollywood and private enterprises to state and local governments. Experts say Beijing's influence runs deep and wide.
The title of this hearing is The Long Arm of China. The long arm of China is not some futuristic threat. It's already here.
A former high-ranking official with our nation's counterintelligence community calling China America's greatest existential threat.
And it is the most complex, pernicious, aggressive, and strategic threat our nation has ever faced.
It is time to wake up. Today, China is already carrying out the biggest illegal wealth transfer from one nation to another in the history of mankind.
Primarily through American technology and intellectual property.
They have weaponized our openness. They have weaponized our decency. And they have weaponized a corporate lust for profits against us.
Following Wednesday's hearing, Senator Rubio reintroduced a bipartisan bill to combat China's political influence operations in the United States and around the world. Senator Rubio saying our nation, quote, must have the tools necessary to combat Beijing's malicious and coercive political influence. Pat?
George, we hear the rhetoric, but what is the Biden administration actually doing to counter China's global advances?
Yeah, Pat, one way the administration is attempting to counter China's advances is to encourage European nations and Japan to counter Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative. Pat, as you know, China has been on a spending spree in recent years, lending and investing hundreds of billions of dollars to help developing nations across Africa, Latin America, Asia, and in fact also Europe. The president is urging wealthy nations to offer an alternative to Beijing's initiative. But it has been a tough sell, though. There is deep disagreement among the United States and its allies about how to respond to China's rising power. But the president has been clear. He has framed China's rise as a fundamental struggle between democracies and autocracies.
George, what's the flashpoint? What part of the world should we be watching?
Yeah, Pat, American officials fear that a Chinese invasion of Taiwan is closer than we think. China's government regards the island as a renegade state and has repeatedly vowed to take it back by force if necessary. Beijing continues to stage war games off the coast of Taiwan in what is widely seen as a dress rehearsal for an invasion. Pat, by the way, the vice chairman of the Joint Chiefs, General John Hyten, said recently that the United States, his words, failed miserably after U.S. forces staged a fake battle over Taiwan. To quote the general, he said, an aggressive red team that had been studying the United States for the last 20 years just ran rings around us. They knew exactly what we were going to do before we did it. The blue team, they lost access to its entire networks almost immediately.
It's frightening. Well, one of the greatest threats is a cyber attack. Are we ready for a cyber attack?
Well, according to a new report, Pat, from the Senate Homeland Security Committee, we are not. It found federal agencies tasked with securing sensitive data have failed to implement some of the most basic defenses against cyber attacks. 8 agencies, including the State Department, Social Security Administration, and Department of Homeland Security, were evaluated, graded, and given so-called report cards. Well, most of them got C's and D's. Only DHS showed improvement over the last 2 years. Clear evidence, as we have been talking on this show, that personal information of millions of Americans continue to be at grave risk.
It's frightening. Thank